Now for the track guide. Turn 1, this concrete on the left side is gonna be a good marker. You want to turn in as soon as you see it, and there is one common mistake here. Usually people are braking while turning. Since this car has a fair amount of downforce, you don't want to do that. You want to carry all the speed into the corner to use the downforce of the car and also gain time on entry. So the first important thing is to carry the speed. So as you can see, still on throttle, still on throttle, still being on throttle, and now applying the brakes. Now, when building up this turn 1 and turn 2, you want to rotate the car earlier so you can be earlier on throttle. So I'm gonna trail brake a lot in this part of the track. So going close to this curb, now trailing the brakes more and more. So keep trailing, keep trailing, keep trailing. The next checkpoint is this curb on the left. I want to touch it with my left tires, but if you go past it, your car will spin because you're also trail braking, you're adding more steering angle to make up for going wider, and naturally the car will start to get loose. So just put your left tire on top of it, but don't go past the red. It will also be an off track if you do so. And notice that we're still trail braking and adding now the second downshift to fourth gear to give us even more rotation. So still trailing, still trailing, still trailing, and at this point we're going back on throttle. So this is not the apex, but it's the point in which we generated the rotation that we need to go back on throttle and to carry all the speed into the exit. So this point, as you see, back on throttle. So this is what you should aim for. Usually the common mistake is to be back on throttle around here, but this is too late. At this point you want to be already on 100% throttle, using a bit of this curb, just the white line, and all the exit. You know that you carried quite amount of speed when your car gets pushed out wide here. Now preparing the S's, you want to have your car onto the white line. This will matter a lot, and you want to turn in early for this corner because this is almost flat. As you can see, it's a small lift. You can do it even flat, and the reference that I use is that I want to have the halo as close as I can to the left side. So I'm using this wide line on the left side to position the car, and by the time I'm turning in, the halo has this distance compared to this white building here. If your halo is on the white building, which is the common mistake, you're gonna lose time in the next corner because you need to open it up more so you can be on full throttle earlier. So because I opened it up, at this point I'm just doing a 1% brake to just have some weight on the front tires, and then back on 100% throttle by this time. And I'm keeping the 100% throttle up until here, where I want to be close to the white line, so just have the car as close as I can. But as another reference for the previous corner, you want to go closer to this curb on the left side. You don't want your car to be on the middle or to the right side, because over preparing the next corner is not going to yield much lap time. Instead, being early here on throttle and pushing the car wide is going to make up for that, and you're going to gain more by doing so, rather than doing a lift to have the car position on the right side. So this is one of the corners where you don't need to over prepare it. Hugging it as close as I can to the white line, because in the end what I want is at the turning point to have again the halo on the left of this white building, so I can open up this corner more. And here you're gonna need to do a lift and some trail brake in the lower 5%. But a trick for this corner is to use this curb with your right tires to hook up the car, and this will rotate it for you even more, because I hook it up here, I get the rotation, and then I can be earlier on 100% throttle. And the whole point of the S's is to have this part here, this section, with 100% throttle. If you have a lift in this part, you're gonna lose lap time. So your whole point of this is to be flat here. So flat, 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 never lift. But if your car is gonna get pushed more to the right side, more to this curb, it means you didn't open up enough for the last corner, because you're gonna lose time if you get pushed too wide by being on 100% throttle. So even though you might be on 100% throttle, you might have been carrying less speed than you can, because of you will scrub a lot of speed by adding more steering angle to get back on the left. Now, for the next sequence of corners, for me the braking point is the 50-meter board. As soon as I pass it, I apply the brakes, and I try to be early on throttle here while still getting as close as I can to this curb. In this lap I did a mistake though, because I was a bit too impatient on throttle, and as a result I use more of this curb. And if you're gonna put your car more to the left in this curb, it will unsettle the car, because your car will bottom out, and as a result I lose the balance of it. And now when I'm coming to the second corner, I'm not opening up enough. So you want your car to be a bit more to the left, but if you're too much to the left, your car will bottom out. So it's a fine margin to find, but you should aim to use a bit more than what I did here. Getting close to this curb, you can almost get past it, and it will hook up your car nicely if on the exit you won't use this much of this curb either. So this curb and the curb that we saw previously, this one, are one of the curves that you don't want to use in this track with this car, because if you go past a threshold point to the left, you will lose speed. Now, going to the hairpin, the braking point is after this curb disappears. I just go a few meters forward and I apply the brakes. And I have a small mistake here, because notice there's a gap in between brake and throttle. Ideally, you don't want to have this gap. If this gap wouldn't been existed, then I would have gained 1/10 more in this lap. So try to purposely blend your inputs in a way that whenever you go on throttle, it will be exactly the moment that the brakes ends. You're gonna apex around the white line, and you're gonna use this exit on the right. Now, for spoon, this is all about playing with the car balance. For me, I use this concrete on the right as a reference for turning and brake. The first checkpoint is here, and it's gonna be a long trail brake, as you can see in the shape. So I'm still trailing, and once I get to this curb here, I want to get as soon as I can to 100% throttle. So it's a 4-stage corner as I see it, the first one being this brake, the second one being back on 100% throttle and pushing the car to this curb to open up the next corner, which will matter because it's the longest straight of the track. And as soon as I get to this curb, I'm applying the brakes. And this is the third stage with brake again. So we have brake, throttle, now brake, and I'm gonna brake in the lower 15 percentages. So still trailing, doing the downshift to get the rotation even more. So trying to rotate the car a lot with the brakes and the downshifts and not the steering wheel. That's the main takeaway. And you see that I'm still trailing, and right now I'm back on throttle. So you don't want to be back on throttle at the apex here. You want to be back on throttle before the apex to carry the most amount of speed that you can in this section. So it's all about the rhythm of the brake, throttle, brake, and then throttle again while still hitting this curb. And obviously you're gonna have some oversteer on the exit because you carry a lot of speed by doing so. But if you're gonna use this curb and you won't have the halo antenna here on the white and red curb, that's not gonna be an off track. So using all the available track, and now we have the biggest straight. A small mention in this corner, you want to turn in earlier because this is a flat corner, but if you turn in a bit later, your car will track out a bit wider and you will scrub speed by steering left to bring it to the left side. So you want to turn in a bit earlier and you will gain half a tenth or so And for the last braking zone, I brake past the 100, in between 100 and this banner board. And it's a heavy braking zone. I peak almost to 85, 90, and I maintain it for lat. And this is the thing here, the key thing. You have a reasonable amount of downforce because of the high speed, and you need to hold this brake. If you're gonna drop this brake more quickly, you're not maximizing the straight line braking, and you will lose time on entry. Now, still holding, using the downshifts, and right now when I start to lose downforce, I'm releasing the brakes, and then I try to cut as much as I can on this curve. This should be the main takeaway here. You need to cut this a lot because you need to have your car more to the right side for the next corner, since it's again a big straight after this corner. So you want to prepare it a lot more by cutting the first apex more around here. And in between the corners, you will have a 100% throttle application. This is what you should aim for. Then cutting it again, never drop the throttle to 0, and then be back on 100% throttle while using this curve here. You should have your car, you should put your car in the middle of the curve. This will rotate the car even more for you, and you will be able to take this long right-hander, which is a easy corner with this car, with less amount of steering angle. And whenever you're using less steering angle than let's say another driver, you're gonna gain time. And in short, that's a lap of Suzuka. I wish you a great week ahead, and I'll see you on the next one.